One of Luton's homeless shelters closed this week. You may have heard Ian Lee talking about it earlier on in the week. It's left 15 people with nowhere to sleep at the streets. The premises in Dallow Road has been run by Rise Housing Association, which says it's had its funding withdrawn and can no longer operate. We spoke to these people earlier this week.
I suffered violence through family, so I had no choice but to leave. If I knew this was going to happen, I should have rather suffered the violence, to be honest with you.
We've got nowhere at the moment. We've got nowhere to go. It's hard, isn't it? You need a deposit for a start, and some people haven't got deposits.
They're trying the hardest to find a home and not just put them on the street when they're in the night shelter.
Or one of those organisations stepping in to help people, as we've just heard, is Noah Enterprise, a charity which seeks out of Christian conviction to help the most disadvantaged in the local community. In wintertime, they run a night shelter for the coldest months for people in Luton and will be opening early to accommodate those people who may find themselves without shelter. In fact, they have already opened. Jim O'Connor is the chief executive of Noah and joins me in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Helen.
So you have been open for a little while.
We've opened our emergency winter shelter at the end of November, which we do traditionally every year. So we've been running for a little while. And in this instance, we've stepped in to provide a solution, a temporary solution for this coming week for the people who are leaving the shelter that's closing in Dallow Road. And we're working with the officers of Luton Borough Council to find a longer term, more sustainable solution, which we need to.
What is the situation like for the homeless in Luton?
We, the night before last, we had 26 people in our winter shelter.
Okay.
And that is not all of the people who are homeless. So you can imagine that the people who are in the winter shelter are people who do not have anywhere to live. And where they will stay at night will be at best in derelict buildings. The only support they get would be the support that they get from us. That is in food, clothing, an opportunity to clean up, the access to medical service, dentistry, and support in finding accommodation where they're eligible to do so, i.e. that is that they're in receipt of benefits. And that would be the big advantage of the night shelter in Dallow Road coming to us as a responsibility to us, because we have the wherewithal to help people move from that situation into a more sustainable, long-term, settled situation. And it gives us the opportunity to work with people more closely, find out what their needs are, and address those needs to find that longer-term solution. And those needs may range from addiction, mental health, ill health, and we can find a pathway to the remedies for all of that.
So how do people come to you?
They come in a number of ways. They will come by word of mouth. So, for example, some of the people in the Dallow Road shelter are accessing our services and they will tell others of the benefits and help that you can get. They come by referral from the local authority, from the health service, from police. They come from other voluntary agencies. They may come from their GPs to us. We have an open door policy.
And how, you say there are 26 people last night who came. How many can you accommodate?
In the temporary winter shelter, what we've done, we have a wonderful partnership with the Salvation Army and we use their premises. And we spoke to them on Friday and they very generously, as they are, have made the opportunity to extend that. So we can house, or we can bed down, shall we say, up to about 35 people, but that would be on a short-term basis. The average would be up to 30 at most. What we desperately need in Luton, and it's an aspiration of ours, is a more sustainable long-term night shelter which we would operate and provide that linkage between that night shelter and our daycare services.
Throughout the year as opposed to just winter? Throughout
the year as opposed to that. We currently are involved in running a program called No Second Night Out. It's a government-funded initiative and the objective is to prevent people new to the street spending more than one night on the streets. Now, in order to make that effective, or indeed any solution to rough sleeping effective, you need emergency accommodation. So night shelter access is absolutely vital, and it's a key part of the jigsaw of helping people move on.
So you run, Noah is a charity which does a lot more than just the winter night shelter.
Very much.
It's run out of Christian conviction.
It is.
How does faith come into it?
It was faith that inspired its establishment. It was set up by a nun, a Catholic nun, who was a member of a community known as the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. And their objective, their vocation indeed, was to help and work with the poor, which is the translation of both great commandments, to love God and to love your neighbour as yourself. It's the practical implementation of that. I myself am a member of a lay organisation called the St. Vincent de Paul Society, whose objective is similar. And it was by that coincidence that I became involved with Noah. So Noah is fired by its Christian ethos, it's inspired by it.
So what do you need then to achieve this aim of having a year-round facility?
I'm hoping that the discussions that we're involved in with the local authority will help us to find a way in partnership with them, that with their support, that we could begin to go down this particular road. Ourselves, we would find the wherewithal, the investment to establish the premises, either buy a building or build a building. And the support from the local authority is that the funding that they give to support the people in the Dalla Road night shelter would be directed towards us. So it's entirely feasible. The added benefits that we would bring, as I say again, is that the people in that night shelter would be helped to move on to a more sustainable and better quality of life.
Jim, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
I'm sure you're providing much sanctuary for those people. Jim O'Connor, who is the Chief Executive of Noah Enterprise charity. Is it just Luton?
No, we work across Bedfordshire.
It's a Homelessness Sunday today. I don't know if you were aware. I know there are various different churches doing things for Homelessness Sunday. St Andrew's Church in Bedford is providing a modest breakfast between the 8 and 10 o'clock services, and there'll be a talk from an officer of the YMCA Bedfordshire about its work with homeless and vulnerable young people today. You're listening to BBC Three Counties Radio. This is Carol King. You've got a friend.